The banquet hall glowed under 100 soft lights, each one reflecting off crystal glasses and polished silverware. It was a celebration, the kind that screamed success, family, and tradition. In the center of it all stood the man of the hour, Jared Bellamy, flanked by his loving wife, doting parents, and a sea of beaming relatives. I was there too, of course. Me, Ethan Bellamy, the elder son, the provider, the one who had quietly paid for this entire evening. The catering, the imported wine, the string quartet playing Vivaldi in the background. My father's tux. My mother's pearls. Even the ridiculous fireworks set for the grand finale. All of it had come from me. But no one mentioned that. Instead, they raised their glasses to my younger brother. To Jared. My father declared, standing tall and proud, his voice rising over the gentle hum of conversation. To the best son in the family. Laughter erupted around the room. Chairs creaked as people leaned back, smiling, sipping their drinks. Jared stood, holding up his own glass with mock humility. "Let's not forget our very own family sponsor," he quipped, gesturing toward me. "To Ethan, the guy who works so we don't have to." More laughter. A few guests clapped. I gave a smile, tight and practiced. But my stomach twisted. Then came the moment that would undo everything. My father turned to me, his face flushed from wine and self-satisfaction. "And here's to Ethan," he said with a smirk, "our most generous burden." The room exploded again. People laughed, some awkwardly, others genuinely amused. My mother giggled behind her champagne glass. I felt the air leave my lungs. A burden? I had paid off their mortgage. Paid for Jared's failed business ventures. Covered their debts. Made sure they never saw an overdue notice in their lives. I had run my own small construction firm, spending 10-hour days hauling lumber and managing chaotic sites just so they could host parties like this. And now, I was a punchline. I stood slowly, the legs of my chair scraping softly against the marble floor. The laughter quieted. Someone turned down the music. A few heads swiveled toward me. I adjusted my jacket, picked up my coat, and gave Jared a long, level look. "You win," I said simply. He blinked. "What?" I turned to my father. "And to you, I hope you enjoy the evening. It's the last one I'll be paying for." Gasps spread like ripples across the room. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out, my shoes echoing through the ornate hall, past the floral arrangements I'd funded, past the valet I'd hired, and out into the biting autumn night. Outside, the wind was sharp and cleansing. I stood for a long moment, staring at the sky, the buzz of conversation fading behind the heavy doors. That night, I made a decision. One I should have made years ago. When I returned home to my apartment, a modest but comfortable space above a quiet corner bookstore, I did two things. First, I opened my laptop and canceled every automatic payment tied to my parents' accounts, their utilities, insurance, Jared's luxury car lease. All of it. With a few clicks, the lifeline was gone. Second, I picked up my phone and called a moving company. I'd been living in the same place for 5 years, too close to family, too accessible. That would change. By morning, my inbox was flooded. "Mom, why would you do this to us?" "Dad, call me back. We need to talk. This is ridiculous." "Jared, dude. That was a joke. Don't be so sensitive." I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I changed my number. The days that followed felt strangely silent. For the first time in years, I didn't have someone asking for a small favor, or claiming they were short this month. No one guilted me into driving across town to fix a broken window or cover a missed payment. At first, I was disoriented by the quiet. I sat on the floor of my half-packed apartment, staring at the peeling label on an old box that read Ethan's Tools. For so long, I had been moving in service of everyone else. Now, there was nowhere to go. No one to fix things for. But slowly, that silence became something else, freedom. A week later, I'd relocated to a small lakeside town 2 hours away. The air was clean. The neighbors kept to themselves. And best of all, no one knew the Bellamy name. I reopened my construction business under a new license, targeting residential renovations and cabin restorations. The work was hard, but honest. Every dollar I earned was mine. Every nail I hammered was for my future. Still, the messages trickled in through mutual contacts. My father was livid. My mother was heartbroken. Jared couldn't believe I was seriously making them suffer like this. As if I hadn't been suffering for years. Then came the card. Handwritten. No return address. You'll regret this. We're your family. And you don't just turn your back on family. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because something had shifted deep inside me. I had always believed that loyalty was love, that giving more would eventually earn me the respect I craved. But now I saw it clearly. They never respected me because they never had to. I was useful. Convenient. A walking wallet and a silent supporter. But I wasn't their son. Not really. Just a role. And now, I was done playing it. Life in the lake town settled into rhythm faster than I expected. Mornings started early, with sunlight filtering through the pine trees outside my new cabin's window. The air smelled like earth and cold water. I'd wake at 6, drink coffee by the wood stove, and head out to job sites where I spent hours laying hardwood floors, replacing beams, or helping retirees rebuild their forever homes. No one asked about my family. No one knew who I used to be. And I liked it that way. But peace has a way of attracting attention, from the people who can't stand your independence. It started subtly at first. Missed calls from unknown numbers. A voicemail left in a shaky voice. "Ethan, it's your mom. Can we please talk?" I didn't answer. Then, strange little things began happening. One afternoon I received a text from my bank about a login attempt. Then another. I had already changed my credentials, but someone was clearly trying. The next morning, a letter was slipped under my office door. No stamp, no envelope, just a sheet of paper folded in half. "This is going too far. Come back and fix what you broke." I stared at the paper for a long time, unsure whether to laugh or rage. Fix what I broke? As if walking away from emotional blackmail was vandalism. I texted the only person I still spoke to from my old life, my cousin Riley, a straight shooter who'd always seen through Jared's nonsense. "Ethan, someone's trying to get into my accounts." "Riley, bet it's Jared. He's been throwing tantrums at family dinners since you left." "Ethan, tell him to grow up." Riley tried. He said, and I quote, "Ethan abandoned us. I'm just trying to keep the family together." "Ethan, by hacking into my bank account?" Riley, "Yep. Real hero." I changed my passwords again, then contacted my bank to put two-factor authentication in place. It wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. I knew Jared. Knew how my parents enabled him. And deep down, I knew this wasn't over. A few days later, I returned home late after finishing a garage renovation. My shoulders ached, my hands were rough and coated with sawdust, but it was the good kind of tired, the kind that means you earned your day. As I parked my truck and walked toward the cabin, I noticed something that made me pause. A car. Black. Nondescript. Parked across the street, partially hidden behind a tree. No license plate on the front. Windows tinted too dark for local laws. I stood there for a minute, pretending to check my phone, and glanced at the reflection in the glass door to my cabin. The driver was watching me. I didn't move. Neither did he. I turned and walked inside slowly, heart suddenly pounding. Inside, I locked the door, closed the blinds, and sat at the kitchen table staring into the darkened woods beyond my window. 1,000 scenarios ran through my mind. Was it someone casing the house? A thief? A local with poor parking etiquette? No. I knew who it was. They weren't even trying to be subtle. The next morning, I filed a police report. The local officer was sympathetic but limited. "Do you know who it might be?" she asked gently. "I have a strong suspicion," I said. "But no proof yet." She took notes, advised me to install a camera near my porch, and promised to patrol more frequently. It helped a little. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Then came the breaking point. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I had just returned from a client's house when I found my door unlocked. Not open. Unlocked. I froze. I never left it that way. Pushing it open, I stepped into the quiet, heart in my throat. And there they were. My mother. My father. And Jared. Sitting in my living room like they owned the place. My mother was flipping through my mail. My father was inspecting a bookshelf as if grading it. Jared was on my couch, shoes off, holding my TV remote. "I knew you wouldn't be gone long," my mother said without looking up. "Your place is a mess." I couldn't speak. Couldn't even move. "You broke into my home," I finally said, voice low and dangerous. "Oh, don't be dramatic," my father scoffed. "Your mother still had a spare key from when you moved. We're family, Ethan. You trespassed." Jared laughed. "Come on, man. It's not like you don't need us." I stared at him. Get out. My mother stood, clearly offended. Ethan, you need help. You're not thinking straight. You moved away, you changed your number, you're acting like a stranger. Because I am one, I said. No, she insisted, stepping closer, voice trembling, you're lost. You're always so stubborn, thinking you can survive without anyone. But you can't. You'll realize that soon enough. That was when it clicked. This wasn't about love. It was about control. Always had been. They didn't come to reconnect. They came to reassert ownership. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my phone. You've got 10 seconds to leave before I call the police. Silence. Then, my father grumbled something under his breath and grabbed Jared by the shoulder. Let's go. We'll talk later, Ethan. When you're ready to be reasonable. But my mother lingered. You think you've won, she hissed, her voice suddenly cold. But you'll come crawling back. You always do. I met her gaze. Watch me not. She slammed the door on her way out. I filed another police report that night. This time, I included the break-in. The officer listened carefully, offered a restraining order, and suggested a lawyer if I wanted to pursue charges. I didn't hesitate. I was done playing nice. The locks were changed. A camera was installed. And my lawyer drafted an official cease and desist order. My message to them was clear: if they came near me again, they would face legal consequences. Because this wasn't rebellion. This was survival. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had built a wall high enough. The locks had been changed, the security system activated, and cameras installed on every entrance of the cabin. The cease and desist letter had been delivered, signed, and acknowledged. Even Jared's smug face couldn't spin that into family love. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The silence was the first clue. No calls. No texts. No passive-aggressive cards with guilt-laced lines like "hope you're surviving without us." Nothing. The car that had been parked near the edge of the woods disappeared. Jared's voice was absent from every rumor I heard through the grapevine. It was too quiet. I told myself maybe, just maybe, they had given up. But one evening, just after sunset, as I returned from a long renovation job, I sensed it before I even reached the driveway. My stomach twisted. The front door was closed. Locked. Lights off. But something was off. The woods around my property were still, too still, as if holding their breath. I stepped out of my truck, every muscle tensed. As I reached the porch steps, I noticed it. The doormat. It was flipped over. I never leave it flipped. I moved slowly, sliding the flashlight from my tool belt and gripping it like a weapon. I edged toward the front door, keys ready. And then I saw the note, taped to the cabin door, just beneath the peephole. Torn notebook paper. One sentence written in thick black ink. "We're not done." My pulse slammed into overdrive. I yanked the note off, took a photo, and checked the security cam app on my phone. Nothing had triggered. No motion alerts. No footage. Because they were smart now. Whoever it was knew where the blind spots were. The next day, I brought the note to the police. They were concerned, but without direct proof of who left it, their hands were tied. "I can file it as a threat, yes," the officer said, frowning. "But unless they're caught in the act, it's hard to do more." I nodded grimly. "Then I guess I need to catch them in the act." I upgraded my security. Added more motion sensors. Planted hidden cameras in the woods near the property's edge. Installed smart lighting that triggered if someone even approached the door. I wanted to believe it would be enough. Until I received a voicemail. No number. Just static for a few seconds. Then my mother's voice. Faint. Off. Like she was whispering in a closet. "Ethan. We tried to be patient. But you've made this ugly. You're hurting your family. Jared's hurting. Your father can't sleep. This isn't how you were raised. You've left us no choice." No choice? What did that mean? My hands clenched around the phone. They were escalating. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my cabin's office, security feed pulled up on one screen, and a pot of coffee going cold on the other. Around 2:13 a.m., something shifted on one of the cameras. Movement. At the far edge of the woods. Just a flicker, too fast for the infrared to catch a face. But definitely a person. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped onto the porch, floodlights blazing around me. Nothing. Whoever it was had melted back into the trees. I stayed outside for 15 more minutes, heart pounding. That was it. I was done playing defense. The next morning, I met with my lawyer again. I want to file for a full protective order, I told him. Not just cease and desist. I want zero contact. I want legal distance. I want to make it clear, if they come within 100 feet of my property, they're breaking the law. He nodded. We'll also attach the voicemail in the note to strengthen your case. And one more thing, I added. I want to transfer the cabin title to a blind trust. They're watching everything. If they ever try to find a weakness, they won't find it here. It didn't take long before they retaliated. This time, not with words. Not with veiled threats or notes. But with something deeper. They showed up to my client's property. I was halfway through building a custom wooden patio deck for a retired couple when Jared rolled up in that same black car. He stepped out with a smug grin, wearing slacks and a blazer like he thought he was about to close a business deal. The client, Mr. Anders, looked confused. You expecting someone else? I frowned. Nope. Jared walked up, too casually, and extended his hand. Hi there. I'm Jared Bellamy. Ethan's brother. Just wanted to check on the quality of the work here. Our company has concerns. I stepped between them. There is no our company, Jared. Leave. But Jared wasn't talking to me. He turned to Mr. Anders and said with the smarmiest voice imaginable, you might want to reconsider who you're hiring. Family's one thing, but sometimes people pretend to be something they're not. I saw the client flinch, uncertain. That was Jared's tactic, poison perception. Ethan, he said, turning to me with a fake smile, we just want you to come home. You've made this more difficult than it needed to be. You broke into my house, I said. You threatened me. You stalked me. Jared tilted his head. Come on, man. Don't be dramatic. I took a step forward, lowering my voice to a deadly calm. If I see you near my job sites again, I'll file for criminal harassment. I have legal orders now. Keep pushing and you'll be arrested. He scoffed. You don't scare me. No, I said. But jail might. He hesitated. Then, for once, he backed off. That evening, I sent a warning to my family through my lawyer. Any future contact, direct or indirect, will result in immediate legal action. There was no response. No calls. No notes. No cars in the woods. For the first time since I left, I believed it might finally be over. The peace that followed wasn't instant. I still checked the cameras every morning. Still double-checked the locks before bed. But as the days passed, the tightness in my chest eased. I was rebuilding, not just a life, but an identity. Ethan Bellamy, provider? That man was gone. Now, I was Ethan Bellamy, builder of my own life. The first snowfall of the season came quietly, blanketing the lakeside in a soft white hush. Everything outside my cabin looked untouched, like a fresh page. But inside, my world was very much in motion. It had been a month since Jared's failed ambush at my client's property. A month since I filed the protective order, since I transferred the cabin ownership to a trust, and made every part of my life legally inaccessible to my family. There had been no more notes. No voicemails. No strange cars hiding behind trees. And still, I didn't relax. Because people like my family don't give up. They wait. They plot. And then they strike where it hurts most, your peace. I had started seeing a therapist. Her name was Clara. She was in her late 50s, blunt, patient, and didn't let me dance around the real stuff. In our third session, she asked me something that stayed with me for days. Do you think they loved you, Ethan? Or did they just depend on you? I didn't answer her then. But I knew the truth. They had loved the benefits of me. Not me. They loved my ability to pay the bills, fix the roof, bail Jared out of debt. But who I was, what I needed, none of that ever mattered. And that realization didn't make me angry anymore. It made me free. My business was doing better than ever. Word had spread fast about my craftsmanship, my honesty, and the fact that I actually showed up when I said I would. I started hiring a few trusted contractors, expanding our territory, even bought a second truck for larger jobs. Each invoice, each happy client was another nail in the coffin of the lie my family had always believed. That I was only valuable if I gave everything away. Now, I was building something for me. And it felt damn good. Then, one quiet Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail, this time from an unknown number that hadn't been flagged before. I stared at the notification for a long time before pressing play. Ethan. It's Mom. Of course. Her voice was slow, uncertain. Not the clipped, icy tone I'd grown up with. This one was coated in honey. Fake honey. We haven't heard from you. It's been a while. And your father? He's not doing great. I closed my eyes. Here it comes. I know things got tense. But it doesn't have to be like this. I was thinking. Maybe we could meet for dinner. Just talk. Like a family. There it was again. Like a family. Like the version of family where I fund their life in exchange for being emotionally neglected. Where my brother is a parasite but treated like royalty. Where I'm only seen when they need something. I hit delete. But it didn't stop. A few days later, an envelope showed up at the P.O. box I used for business. No return address. Inside was a single photo, me, at the construction site of my latest project. Hammer in hand. Head down. Working. On the back, scribbled in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. You look tired, Ethan. Come home. My hands shook. Not from fear. From fury. They were watching again. After everything, they still believed they had a claim on my life. That evening, I did what I had been putting off for months. I pulled out the old shoebox from the back of my closet. Inside were the last remnants of the Bellamy family that I had never thrown away, old birthday cards, a childhood drawing my mom once put on the fridge, a family photo from the one vacation we took when I was 10. I lit the fireplace. And one by one, I fed the contents into the flames. The drawing. The cards. The photo. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it because I needed to close that chapter. They were not my future. They were a lesson. And I had learned it. I made one final call to my lawyer. I need a no-contact order added to the protective file, I said. They've resumed surveillance. Document everything, he replied. If they breach again, we'll escalate. Then I called Clara. I think I'm ready, I told her. For what? She asked. To stop waiting for them to change. Weeks passed. And this time, nothing came. No photos. No calls. No messages from unknown numbers. It was like the fire had finally burned itself out. Maybe they realized the game was over. Maybe Jared had moved on to someone else to manipulate. Maybe my parents had finally run out of rationalizations. I didn't care. Because I was too busy living. On a crisp afternoon, I stood outside my latest client's property, admiring the porch I had just finished. The homeowner, a retired art teacher named Mrs. Beckett, beamed at the craftsmanship. You're wasted on construction, she teased. I laughed. I like building things people can live in. She handed me a cup of tea and nodded toward my truck. You look like someone who left something behind to find himself. Am I right? I blinked. That obvious? She smiled. Only to someone who did it, too. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the evergreens and the lake turned gold, I sat on my porch, alone, content, whole. The phone buzzed once. A number I didn't recognize. I stared at it for a moment. Then let it ring out. And that was the real victory. Not slamming doors. Not calling the police. Not burning bridges. But choosing not to answer. Choosing peace. Choosing myself. 6 months. That's how long it had been since the last knock, the last message, the last shadow lurking near the edge of my woods. 6 full months of silence. It didn't happen all at once. At first, I still expected the other shoe to drop. I checked my cameras daily, waiting for a new threat scribbled on a napkin or a voicemail dripping with guilt. I slept with my phone on the nightstand, my legal folder within reach. But eventually, the air cleared. And for the first time in my life, I understood what freedom truly meant, not just physical distance, not just locked doors, but the absence of expectation. Of manipulation. Of that endless emotional tax my family had always demanded in exchange for their twisted version of love. The cabin had changed in that time too. I'd filled it with plants. Painted the walls. Hung up photos, not of my past, but of my present. Smiling clients. Friends from town. My dog Cooper, a mutt I rescued who now refused to leave my side. His joy was simple, honest. Something I wasn't used to, but was learning to trust. I had finally made this place my home. No spare keys. No ghosts. Just me. Business was booming. I'd hired 2 more contractors, bought a 3rd work truck, and had enough backlog jobs to keep me booked through spring. People trusted me not just for my skill, but for my word. That meant more to me than any inheritance or false praise ever had. One morning, I stopped by a hardware supplier for lumber and insulation. As I paid at the counter, the clerk, Ben, a grizzled guy who wore the same camo hat every day, looked at me and said, "You're the one who does lake homes, right? People say you work like a man who walked through hell and came out building castles." I chuckled. Something like that. But inside, I felt it, that slow, steady peace that grows when you've chosen yourself, and nothing bad happens. Then, one sunny Saturday, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail. Blocked number. My gut tightened for just a moment. Old instincts die hard. I sat down on the porch steps, Cooper curled beside me, and pressed play. The voice was unmistakable. "Ethan. It's Dad." Of all the people, I hadn't expected him to be the one to break the silence. "I don't expect you to answer. Hell, I don't even know if you'll listen to this. But your mother wanted me to try." He paused. The sound of him clearing his throat came through, dry and distant. "We sold the house." Another pause. Couldn't keep up with it. Jared tried to help. For a little while. Didn't work out. There was something hollow in his voice. Not sadness. Just fatigue. "I guess you were right. About a lot of things. Doesn't matter now, I suppose. We're out in Arizona, staying with your aunt." I stared out at the lake, unmoved. He still hadn't said the word. "Sorry. I hope you're doing well," he added at the end. "Really? That's all." Click. I didn't return the call. I didn't save the message. I didn't even let it occupy space in my mind for more than a moment. Because by then, I'd already moved on. You see, that's what no one tells you about walking away from a toxic family. It's not the leaving that's hard. It's the believing. Believing that you deserve peace. That your story doesn't have to end with forgiveness or reconciliation or a picture-perfect reunion. Sometimes, it ends with nothing at all. And sometimes, that's exactly what you need. I closed the shop early that day. Drove out to the overlook, where the lake curved like a silver ribbon through the trees. It was the spot I always came to when I needed clarity, or just a moment to breathe. The wind was cool on my face. I took out my journal, a habit I'd started during therapy, and flipped to a blank page. At the top, I wrote, "Final ties." Then I made a list. Not of the things I'd lost, but of what I'd gained since the day I left. A business built on my own terms. Friendships not rooted in obligation. A home that was truly mine. Peace and privacy. Self-respect. The freedom to choose who stays in my life. I stared at the list for a long time. Then, at the very bottom, I wrote, "I no longer owe anyone an explanation for choosing myself." I closed the journal and smiled. A few days later, I got a text from Riley, my cousin, the only one who had ever really gotten it. "Your brother applied for a job at the old lumber yard. Lasted 4 days. Says he's thinking of starting a podcast about masculinity. LOL." I replied with nothing but a thumbs up emoji. She sent back, "Proud of you. Just so you know." That meant more than she probably realized. It's been a year now. 12 full months since I left the Bellamy family behind. A year of clarity. Of unlearning. Of building. And still, not once have I looked back and wished I had stayed. People say blood is thicker than water. But peace? Peace is thicker than guilt. And it's the only legacy I'm interested in now.